Well, good day, everybody in the podcast world, and I am thrilled to have you with us today, whether you are watching this or you're listening in. I am glad that you chose to, join us today. I hope that you will take time to share it with somebody, and I'm looking forward to you hearing from our guest today, Philip Deas. Good to have you with me.
Hey, I am so honored and happy to be here with you.
Yeah, well, I'm thrilled, and hey, for some of you out there, you're like, "Who's Philip Deas?" Well, you've heard the last name probably Deas if you've been at North Church for the last many months, because his wife Destiny actually spoke a revival back last winter, and then also came and spoke on a Thursday night, and then came just recently and was here on a Sunday. And Philip, you got to come both times, and I am so thrilled that you got to come because we got to actually deepen our relationship and get to know each other a little better.
Absolutely, man. We had such an amazing time, man. That the environment, the atmosphere of North Church, what God is doing in that community, so encouraging just to be a part of it.
Well, just to kind of expand on that just a little bit, of course, the first message last winter was terrific. This one, most recent on Sunday, I'm just literally after every message, all four times. I was the first one in the altar on my face, and and I lead the way going to the altar for our people. I just want them to, but I was weeping
Mm,
after every experience because that message just really touched my heart. And I think it was so timely for our
mm.
church and where we are as a church. I think any church needs to hear that message, but specifically, I think our church where we are right now was so timely, and I appreciate that message.
Oh man, yeah. That message just flows right out of her heart. That is a heart message for her. It is core to everything that we do, and that identity of the innkeeper, right? It's definitely one. It's definitely an identity that we've taken for sure.
Yeah, no, I can see that in both of your lives. So, Philip, give us a little bit of rundown on your family, a little bit, kind of our people that are listening, kind of give them a feel of who Philip and Destiny and their family are.
Yeah, so me and Destiny, we have been married now for 20 years. We dated and were engaged for 7 years before that. So for 27 years, we have been together, and we have five children. And that is yeah, five. Yeah, that's not a mistake. That is five. Yeah, that is the number that I just said. I have to clarify that every time because people are like, really, really five? Yes, we have a 13, 10, 8, 5, and 3. The first three are girls, the last two are boys. So we have a full house. But man, it's really, really a blessing.
So, can we expect any of them just to show up in the background any moment?
No, no, they are in school, thankfully, all right now. So we are happy about that.
Okay. Little breather, huh?
Yeah, that's exactly right. School is back in session.
Good, 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 good. Well, that's exciting, and I'm sure you get those girls, but those boys, they will. I, two boys back to back, man. They will. They can destroy a house. They could. They're just hard to corral sometimes.
Oh man, after our three girls, Des and I, we were ready to write our parenting book. We had to put that on hold after we had the boys, right? I mean, it's like, whoa, wait a minute, wait a minute, hold on. We didn't know as much as we thought we knew about parenting, and so, but they definitely bring the party every single day.
Yeah, your boys are about the same age as my grand boys, and I remember Haley, who is my son's wife, our covenant daughter. And when she had those two boys, the second one comes along. I mean, she would call us because she was a single child, only child, and just, obviously a girl. But she was like, do they supposed to be this way? I mean, like jumping up on couches and just body slamming, jumping from to land on the other one and just all out. And when dad comes home, it's like, let's fight. And it's all just one big wrestling
Yeah.
mania till bedtime.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Taylor, I was wondering the same thing, man. When we had those 2 boys, I was like, "This was not what parenting was like just a couple years ago."
Yeah. Well, that's the difference in boys for the most part. Not maybe all case scenarios,
That's right.
but you start putting two boys back to back, it changes the game.
It does.
So you got those five kids. You going back just a little bit. You're a football player. You played football at Evangel Christian there in
Yep.
Shreveport,
Mhm.
which is renowned for its football. I mean, they've had some um, the best teams in the nation over the past many years. I know they're not quite what they were in the past,
Yeah.
but man, you got to play on one of those teams. Tell us a little bit about kind of your experience as a football player there,
Yeah.
and what it was like being under the great Denny Duron,
Oh, yeah.
who is the founder of that football program and also the coach.
That's right. Yeah, there is nobody like Denny Duron. The impact that he had on my life, not just as a football player, but really as a person, as a follower of Jesus, and as a preacher. I mean, he was really an instrumental person in my life, and but playing football for him was fantastic. He had a little bit of a pro career. Went back, started the program at Evangel University, started their football program, and then his mom started a school in Shreveport, Louisiana in the early 80s, and she wanted the kids at the school to have a football experience. So she asked him to come home and start the football program at Evangel Christian Academy. And so he thought it was something that he was just going to come in and do, and, just maybe for a few years and just kind of get a little program started. But man, we had so much success in those early days that it grew into something that it was like not even initially intended to be. A real national powerhouse. 1999, we were the national champions. Number one team, went on a 60-0 run over 4 seasons, of which I was able to be at the beginning of that 60-0 run. Was when my high school career was there, and was able to break a couple national passing records as a quarterback, signed a full scholarship to go to the University of North Carolina. Ended up rupturing a disc in my back, had back surgery, which kind of ended my playing career. But then I got into coaching and coached college football for a couple years. And then actually, Pastor Denny called me and said, "Hey, I want you to come back, be the youth pastor, coach here, at Evangel Christian Academy." And that's what I did. I came home, joined the staff, and coached at Evangel Christian Academy for a number of years, and was a part of multiple state championship teams there as a coach. And so as a player and a coach, I think like 10 state championships over a number of years. It's been an incredible journey as a player and a coach, and the impact of Evangel on my life and on so many people's lives. It really, no words can really express how great it was.
Now, if I remember correctly, I think that on those state championships, probably at different classifications too, right?
Yeah,
Because I think that you are relatively a small school in regards to school population, but because of your excelling on the football field, I think you guys actually chose every year to go up
that's right.
to
Yep.
the next classification, all the way to the top level.
Yep, yep.
And
Several of those championships were at the peak, man. They were at the top 5A level, which is Louisiana. That's our top level, and so a lot of those championships were, they're at the 5A level, and so we're a small school playing with the big boys.
so, tell me a little bit about the atmosphere on the the kind of the culture, the atmosphere that was created by your coach Denny Duron,
Yeah,
Pastor Denny Duron.
yeah.
Talk to us about kind of what, as a student athlete playing there, what it was like. Because yes, y'all were at the grind playing football at a very high level, but there was a spiritual component that was very deep that he kind of led your
Oh
players
yeah.
into.
Oh, there is no doubt. We did some very unique things as a football team, just out of that overflow mentality, out of that outreach mentality. We did things like we would go to nursing homes on Thursday nights before games, and would minister in nursing homes. Football team would sing, somebody would share a couple testimonies, would give a little 5-minute message, and just really love on the people there. We went into juvenile detention centers, we went into prisons, and then eventually we started traveling to churches on Sunday nights. And we would do a whole presentation. We would sing. We had a whole little skit that we did, and man, we would preach. And it was growing up in such an atmosphere of faith, and that really anything was possible, and that your life really mattered and it could make a difference. And those seeds of faith, man, were really planted in me at such a young age. And then opportunities were created. And I think that's such a beautiful thing, because it wasn't like, hey, one day you guys can do this. It was like they created opportunities for us to do this at 15, 16, 17 years old. And man, we are preaching and sharing our testimony and ministering and praying for people in the altars. And it was such a formative experience. But it was like the seeds of faith planted, but also the opportunity given. And that was really a powerful combination for a lot of guys like me who are still today really in full-time ministry and have been preaching and teaching their whole lives because of what God did in our life as teenagers at Evangel Christian Academy.
So good. And you mentioned you briefly there that a number of the guys over the years are now, and I'm sure many of them, their life has been impacted so that they are very much a part of a life-giving segment of a life-giving part of a church, serving in that church, doing ministry for the kingdom's purposes. But then there's many of them that are in full-time vocational ministry as a pastor, evangelist, leader. And so that is true, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, man. We have guys serving on staffs, church staffs all over the country. We have a lot of guys actually coaching football in Christian schools as well. I mean, the impact of our experience really has led to really a lifestyle of transformation.
And you talk about Christian schools, but also even in public high
Oh, yeah.
schools and colleges, the Denny Duran effect in regards to
Yeah.
his disciples are just all over. In fact, there's those in our church here at North Church.
Yeah.
I've got pastor friends who were under him either at Evangel Christian or at Evangel College up in
Yeah.
Springfield when they played college ball under Denny Duran, and their lives have been greatly impacted by how he led, not just as a coach, but really as a spiritual father for all of his athletes.
Yes. Yeah. Very, very true. And then the show came out, on Amazon, right? You can find it on Amazon now, God Family Football. And it's the story of him as he kind of got out of coaching for a while. And now he's back into coaching. He's the head coach at Evangel Christian Academy again. And they did a whole show with him, and it just got renewed for the second season. Actually, 2 more seasons they just renewed. And so there's going to be a whole lot more of God Family Football coming your way. So it's going to be, it's really exciting.
That's great.
Yeah.
I got a little bit of inside track that the team is getting better every year.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, the
Yeah.
team is improving, and so we got a bunch of really good players coming up, bunch of young players that are just now kind of coming up. And so the last few years it's been a little, we could say, not typical Evangel football, but yeah, things are starting to turn, and the future looks really bright.
So again, people can go and watch this on what? How
Yeah,
can
it's
they
at
get it?
Amazon. You can go to Amazon Prime, God Family Football. You can search for it there, and you can find it. It's a little six series docu series, and it's quite entertaining, and just a whole lot of Jesus in there, man.
Yeah.
They just get in there and go for it, man. Praying, preaching. So it's exciting.
That's great. Yay, 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 yay. That's good. Hey, go check that out. Well, also after your, coaching stint there at Evangel Christian, and then also on pastoral staff there, you went and took a lead pastor position there on the in the suburbs of
Yep,
Shreveport, correct?
that's right. Yeah.
And
hmm
then you and Destiny were there as pastors for how many years? And tell us a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, and so I was on staff with Pastor Denny for the better part of a better part of 12 years. We were gone a little bit of time in there. Dustin went to law school. We were gone a little bit, but for the better part of 12 years, we were on staff and coaching. And then in 2013, he sent us to Bossier City, which is right across the river there in Shreveport, and we revitalized the church. A church had got down to about 70 people at that time, and the pastor reached out to Pastor Denny and said, "Hey, would you be interested in having a campus over here in Bossier?" And of course, he said, "Yeah, absolutely," and sent us over there. And we pastored that church for 11 years and saw it grow to over 1,000 people a Sunday. And so God did amazing things. It really impacted the community in a lot of great ways. And so that was a fun ride. We're still very involved right now. We just transitioned out of the lead pastor role in January. Destiny's brother, actually, my wife Destiny, her brother is now actually the lead pastor. We're still on staff, still serving in a leadership capacity there, but God has moved both of us on to some new opportunities right now.
Okay, well, let's talk about those new opportunities. What is Destiny doing right now?
Destiny serves as the vice president of advancement at Evangel University. So we still live here in Louisiana. She's working remote right now. And but she basically is there fundraising, alumni relations, strategic partnerships, and she is having the time of her life. She loves higher education, loves Christian education, so it was just a really a perfect fit for her. And now I am currently serving as a mindset and behavior optimization coach, working with companies all over the country, working with CEOs, their executive teams, working with some sports teams, work with the military, and really just trying to help the best get better is the way that the way that I like to say that. People that are already highly functional, but they're hungry for optimal, and that's kind of the space that I have found myself in for the last few years, but going on full time this year.
You made a statement there, helping the best get better. And that is a common thing that you hear some of the best athletes, no matter how well they do on the basketball court or the football, in their interviews at some point, they're always saying, yeah, we just need to go back and tweak things, see how we can get better,
Yeah.
how we can get better. Because they may have just had one of the most outstanding games of their career, but they're always evaluating better. And they realize that always sometimes better is not always reflected on with points on the board that you actually did. But they know that there's more in them and that they, at least the best of the best do. And
Yeah,
so that's what
absolutely. I think when you look at the best athletes, the best salespeople, the best business owners, like whenever you're talking about the people at the top, those people are always convinced of one thing, and they are convinced that they can always get better. And that's why you get to see that's how they made it to the top, right? That's how they stay on the top because they are convinced that the best really can get better. And that's why I like to say they compete to the standard and not to a scoreboard. Because sometimes when you compete to a scoreboard, that scoreboard can be deceiving, right? That scoreboard can start to actually rob you of growth and improvement. Because if you're winning, you think, "Oh wow, look how good we're doing," and you're not really competing to your full potential. You're not really optimizing. Or you look at the scoreboard and you're behind, you start feeling sorry for yourself, comparing to everybody else around you, and look at me, I'm not this and I'm not that. The scoreboard can really rob you. But whenever you compete to the standard, when you compete to the standard of excellence, when you compete to the standard of performance that you have set for yourself, then you can really get into a real optimization journey. And that's what the best are convinced of, that they can get better.
So, Philip, what do you see some of the challenges that top performers face each day? What do you see as some of the challenges they have?
Yeah, I think that when you're talking about high performers, right? Uh, I personally believe that everybody needs a coach in their life because everybody gets better when they have a coach in their life, right? I know from experience, right? Whenever you have a coach, right? When there's somebody there pushing you. I used to train in the off season. You know, we would come home at the beginning of the summer and we would do like our workout there, and they would send us home with all the things we were supposed to do to train right before training camp. And you know, you'd have your workout regimen. But I can promise you one thing: I never was able to train as hard by myself as I was when I had a coach. Man, when I had a coach there pushing me, challenging me, man, I was always going to go to that next level. And I think it's the same whether you're talking about on the field or and in the corporate space, right? When you have a coach, somebody there who is pushing you. And so one of the things that I've really seen is that, man, people are missing either a relevant formula or relentless focus. And when it comes to that, man, there's a formula, and that's what the best are convinced of. They know that there's something that they don't know today that they need to know if they're going to be who they want to be tomorrow. So it
Mm.
just comes down to this, man. There's got to be this formula, right? There's this formula. There's something that they don't know. They need that formula. And then there's this idea of relentless focus. So once you know the formula, once you have the program, then what do you have to do? You have to stay focused on that program. And for so many people, that's where they really drop off. It's not that they don't know what to do. You think about Tom Brady, right? 20 something years in the NFL, 7 Super Bowl championships. I mean, but this guy has a nutrition coach. He has a strength coach. He has a stretch coach. He has a private quarterback coach. He's got all these coaches. And you would say, why? What does he not know what he needs to eat? Does he not know how to work out and stretch? Does he not know by now how to play the quarterback position? And it's not about any of that at all. He just understands humanity. And as humans, we have a tendency to cheat. We have a tendency to want to give up and quit early. We have a tendency to cut corners. And so what he said is, I'm going to hire people that do what? Keep me focused. Right. And I think that in any level of high performance athletes business, it comes down to a formula and a focus. And either they don't have the formula, and so that's what I do a lot of times. I'm helping people with a formula for their life. I'm helping them with the design for their life. I'm helping them create a plan of attack for these challenges. But once that is done, then you have to flip over and go, okay, now how do we stay focused, right? How do we stay focused on what we need to do? And one of my favorite stories of focus is Bill Gates's father arranged a dinner for Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. Apparently, they had never really, come together in a situation like that, and so Bill Gates's dad arranged this dinner. And when they were at dinner, he gave a note card to his son Bill and to Warren Buffett, and he said, "I want you to write down the one word that you attribute the majority of your success to." And both of them wrote down the exact same word: focus.
Mhm.
The ability not to get distracted, not to become disillusioned, not to get disinterested, but to stay focused, to do what needs to be done day after day so that you can have what you ultimately desire. And so I think that's the thing when you're working with high performers. It's either formula or focus. And when you put those things together, man, that's when you start to see you really begin to excel to the next level.
So, Philip, how do you feel like that maybe your background in sports has helped you to be able to do what you're doing now, to take these CEOs, individuals, and to be able to focus and to be able to develop a formula? How did your success on the field help you to do what you're doing now?
Yeah, with athletics, so much in my experience was with visualization, right? Being able to visualize what was going to happen, right? The ability to lay in bed the night before a game to visualize whether it's baseball, basketball, football, whatever that is, and to really begin to see it happening before it actually happens. And that was one of the things that was really, really big. The other thing I would say is just this idea of resilience, right? Of always getting back up. There is nothing like sports to just put failure in your face. right? I mean, there is nothing like sports. You're going to strike out and everybody is looking at you, right? You're going to throw the pass to the wide open receiver and you're just going to miss him. And everybody's like, what in the world? There is nothing like sports, but yet you have to bounce back, and you have to bounce back quick, because the next snap is happening. The next pitch is coming, right? The next shot is right around the corner, and you have to be able to bounce back. And that idea of resilience, and I define resilience as responding the best when things aren't their best, or when you don't do your best, right? Because there's going to be days where we don't do our best, where we break those promises to ourselves, when we do the thing that we told ourselves we weren't going to do anymore. And then there's going to be the days when things just aren't their best. It's not really your fault. Somebody else didn't do what they said they were going to do, right? Or whatever economy, situation, circumstances that are out of your control, and things just aren't the best. But here's what we know, is that we always get a choice to respond. I love Jack Canfield. He's the writer of, Chicken Soup for the Soul, right? Back in the day, he had chicken soup for everybody's soul, right? I mean, the military soul, police officer soul, grandma's soul, there's chicken soup for everybody. Anybody under 40 is like, what is he talking about right now? Everybody over 40 is like, oh yeah, we remember this chicken soup for the soul, right? But he had a success formula, and his success formula was E plus R equals O, which stands for event plus response equals outcome. And I love that, because your response matters. Because what culture, society, even the enemy will try to convince you is that E equals O. That because that happened in your life, oh, this is going to be the outcome. Oh, because your dad was an alcoholic, this is the outcome. Oh, because you got divorced, this is the outcome. This is what this equals. But your response always matters. And your response actually determines the outcome. And so I think that resilience, right? That response, if you look up resilience in the dictionary, one of the words is buoyancy, right? And so it's like you take that flotation device and you pull it underwater. What happens to it? It floats back up to the top. Why? Because that's where it was designed to be. And that's what resilience does. It lets us float back up to the top. When life comes to pull us under, when lies come to pull us under, when situations come to pull us under, we don't have to stay under. We can always float back to the top, because that's where we were designed to be. And I think that is one of the great benefits of playing sports and of competition. And so it's that visualization and that resilience, and it creates a powerful combination.
You mentioned a few things that just really called me back to my playing days. One of my coaches used to always say that humans are creatures of habit. And we can easily, kind of like water being poured out, going to the least resistance, we can easily, and you have to have a coach that can kind of help identify those things that you can't see in you that are habits that need to change and alter.
Yes.
And so I think that's one of the things you were talking about. Also vision. I had one of our baseball coaches back in the day I remember it was a rainy day, we got on the floor and just all day turned off all the lights. It was complete pitch dark, laying on our back. And he just began to talk us through visually seeing situations in the game, a pitch coming, runners in whatever position, and needing to lay down a bunt or drive the ball to the right side of the field or hit it. And he would just he'd do every situation, and we'd learn to visualize seeing yourself hit that hard line drive in the gap, seeing yourself make that fielding the ball and making the throw, and just visually going over. And that was very helpful for me. That still applies to my life today, to see myself. And so when you're talking about vision, you're talking about some of that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That, and that's really cool that you say that, because I mean, that type of coach, right? You go back, 30 years ago, right? That type of coach, man, was on the cutting edge back then, because there's so much now of science, neuroscience, that wasn't even available then. But athletes had kind of figured this out, right? Like coaches had figured this out. Like there's an advantage if I can visualize. I can't explain it, and I don't really know why. But now in neuroscience, they're starting to figure out that it's hard for your brain to tell the difference between what you clearly imagine and also actually doing it. there's a great study that I think it was the University of Chicago. They took three groups of people, just brought them in, just normal people off the street, to shoot free throws. And there was a 30-day, it was a 30-day experiment. What they asked everybody to do in group one, they said, we want you to shoot free throws for an hour a day. Okay, so an hour a day you have to shoot free throws. Group two, they said, we don't want you to do anything, just live, just keep living your life. In group three, they said, we want you to visualize shooting free throws. We want you to, for 1 hour, we want you to feel the ball in your hand, right? See the ball going through the net, like go through the whole process, dribbling, like see yourself doing it all. The amazing thing was they come back, group one, who had been shooting the free throws, had a 24% improvement. Obviously, the second group, they did nothing. It was a 0% improvement with them. But the group who had visualized, had not shot any free throws, but had visualized, 23% improvement. And so you're talking about a 1% difference in the visualization. This study was done really years ago, but it really led into a lot of what we know now about the power of visualization with the brain, and how it starts to really kind of rewire the brain for success. Which then, when we start to think about what do people think, more negative or positive, we go, well, it's negative. Some people say almost 80% of our thoughts lean towards the negative. So when you think about what we are visualizing the negative, and then we are living into the negative, right? But it's like, man, if we can start to change that, and we can start to visualize the positive, we can start visualizing the business deals, we can start visualizing the relationships, we can start visualizing things beginning to change. And that power of that visualization, man, it's just it's really a game changer. And it's moving now from sports, and it's really moving into the corporate world as well.
So good, so good. And you also kind of brought out resilience. And there has been some studies that has proved that some of your best CEOs, what separates some of your best leaders in the marketplace out there, and I think we've known this in the sports world for a long time, but is that it's not charisma, it's not education, it's not money or some type of, it really is grit,
Yes.
just sheer grit, that ability to bounce back, like you said, that ability to be able to take it on the chin, but get up with a positive attitude, move forward. And so you think grit is a word that fits right with resilience?
Absolutely. And it's funny that you bring up that word grit, because in our family, Dee's family, we have three core values as a family: generosity, gratitude, and grit. Because I believe in grit, man, being mentally, emotionally, and physically resilient, right?
Yeah.
And that's how we raise our kids. Is what we talk about, because I believe it truly is a key, to success in any and every area of life.
So how do you help people? First off, let me say, before I move on to the next
Yeah,
thought, I've never heard anybody that has had a family value of grit. I've heard of the other two that you've mentioned, but I think that's brilliant.
yeah.
Actually, we probably need to reevaluate our family values and just like put grit in there.
Yeah,
I think
that's
we're
right.
kind of instilling it in them, but we might as well go ahead and say it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Because we actually have, so we do the gratitude, we do the generosity, and then and the grit. And it was funny because one of my daughters, who will remain anonymous, one of the three, we were just talking, and we were going through our core values, and we were saying, which one do you feel like is your strength, and which one do you feel like is your weakness that we want to work on during the school year? They just went back to school, so we did a little kind of back to school, um, uh, you know, uh, values check, right? And so we and one daughter goes, "Mom, this is obvious. It's grit. I've got to be tougher." I mean, she knows it, man. But it is, it because it really is, though, the ability to bounce back, to respond. And then the quicker you can do that, the better. It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, being able to respond, we want to be able to respond, but to shorten the gap of time right? I mean, you talk about a golfer hits a bad shot. I mean, he's got what, a couple hundred yards to walk, and then he's hitting another shot. And if he's thinking about the last shot that he hit, that next shot is not going to be what it needs to be. Same way basketball, baseball, football, right? Sports. And you think about, you're making decisions. Well, man, if you are carrying that last bad decision, man, it's going to carry on in your day. And then I had one of my clients tell me not long ago, we'd had an afternoon call, and they said, man, I got on the call. I was like, how we doing? They're like, man, I'm just not having a good day. I was like, hey, that's what I'm here for, man. Let's talk about it. What's going on? And they had a meeting first thing in the morning. They said 8:00, right? I had a meeting, got bad news, wasn't prepared for it. It was kind of a spontaneous meeting, whatever, didn't go the way they wanted to. And I'm like, all right, well, what else happened? Right. And they were like, well, nothing really, everything else. And I said, okay. So I said, you didn't have a bad day. I said, you had a bad moment that you couldn't get over. That's
Good.
the reality. You haven't had a bad day. You had one bad moment, and you did not know how to get over that disappointment, right? And I think that that's what happens, right? We get stuck in these moments, and these moments linger. These moments carry on, and it goes for hours. It can go for days. It can go for weeks. And I think the ability to deal with disappointment, to be resilient, to be able to bounce back, is man, it's just so vitally important.
As you were talking about that, bouncing back, and I was thinking about the Olympics, and I was thinking specifically about Stephen Curry and how that really he was not having a very good Olympics. He was not shooting well, but he kept coming back. And in the semifinal game, he had a great game, but comes back in the finals, and just those last 3 shots were just otherworldly.
Otherworldly, yes.
And then especially that last one, I was sitting there thinking he was double teamed, and I was like, don't shoot that. My first thought, don't shoot. You had LeBron and somebody else over on the side that were open, but he was hot as a firecracker.
Yep.
And and then it's one of those deals, you're shooting, don't shoot. And then he shoots. And then I'm like, oh yeah, great shot.
Exactly. Yeah, it goes from no, yes.
Because that was a key time. All 3 of those literally came down 3 times in a row, like bang, 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 and because it easily could have went the other way, and France could have, won that or been right there in the hunt. But man, he just bounced back. But that's why he's the greatest in the game. He just keeps coming back.
No doubt, absolutely.
So, Philip, how about how do you help move people from where they are right now to where they ultimately want to be?
Yeah. That's a great question, because, I think everybody, or we could say most people for sure, right? They have this intense desire, right, to move forward. There's an intense desire for things to be better. I mean, I think we could go out on the street right now and just wave random people, down and ask them, hey, would you like your relationships to improve? Would you like your finances to be better? Would you like to have more peace or joy in your life? Right. And everybody's like, yeah, that would be great. I think there is a desire for that life. But what I've discovered is that intense desire has got to be followed by an intentional design. There has to be an intentional design, right? So if we're going to create what is possible, right? If we're going to live that possible life, how do we move from where we are now to what is possible? I think it starts with desire. I like to say that desire starts the fire, but design takes you to the finish line, right?
Good.
So there's nothing wrong with desire. Desire is good. Desire is, man, we need that desire for more. We need that desire for optimization, to improve. We need that desire. But then we have to go, okay, how is that actually going to happen? What does the design of that look like? And so when you're moving people from where they are now to what is possible, I do a little exercise with my clients, and I just call it the N to P, right? And so you start where we are now. The N is now, the P is what's possible, right? And so that now is just, man, I have them just write down, hey, where are you at right now? Where are you at mentally, emotionally? What's frustrating you? What problems do you currently have? Just, man, you just kind of like brain dump, just, where we are right now. And then we talk about what is possible, Where do we want to be? What do we really have a desire to create on our team and for our employees or for the company? Like what are these things that are actually possible? Now, when you look in the alphabet between N and P, right, is that there's an O. Now, most people along the journey from where they are now to what is possible, they hit the O of obstacles. And they're on the journey, man. They're moving towards what is possible. They're excited. They're fired up. They start their, new year, new me, whatever it is, right? They start their new year, this new venture, and they're on the way, and then they run into obstacles. And the obstacles, they don't know how to overcome the obstacles. They don't know how to deal with the obstacles. It's harder than they thought. Maybe it's taking a little longer than they thought. And when people run into those obstacles, what they tend to do is they tend to just go back to where they started. Right. When you look at that, what I define settling is accepting a state of existence that is inconsistent with my ultimate desire. Right. And so
So
I
good.
hit those obstacles and then I just settle back for where I was. I just, it's not my ultimate desire, but I'm just going to accept this state of existence. And then I'm going to come back there and I'm going to go, well, I mean, it is what it is. This is my family and we have all the whatever excuses we could have or reasons why we turned around. And we got people to blame along the way or whatnot. But we've got to be able to fight through that. And so, a lot of people use the O of obstacles to go back to now. But the other O is the optimization, right? That's what we're talking about. And that word to optimize, it means to make as useful or effective as possible. And so we understand that it's a journey. It's a journey of optimization to move from where we are now to what is actually possible. And there's skill sets that we have to develop, in this journey, right? We've got to have a compelling vision, right? So what I talk my clients through, we've got to have a compelling vision. At some point, there's going to have to be courageous action. Right? We got a compelling vision, but there's going to have to be some courageous action in there. Then there's going to have to be some conscious decision, because I love what Einstein says. He says we can't use our old way of thinking, right? That's what created the problem. We can't use that way of thinking to find solutions, right? Because we wouldn't have these problems. And so we have to get into conscious decision. Because so many people are living life out of their subconscious, right? They're living life out of just kind of what they've always done and what they've always said and the way it's always been. So we got to get out of that subconscious, bring these thoughts into conscious decision making so that we can make new thoughts and or make new decisions, right? And then ultimately we got to have some consistent determination. So those are just some things that we have to walk through along the way. And that's just part of optimization. That's just part of that optimization journey. And I call it a journey intentionally because it's not going to happen in a conference. It's not going to happen in one it's not going to happen in one day. It's not going to happen you read one good book, right? It's not going to happen. It is a journey. But if we will go on the journey of optimization and work our way through the obstacles, this is where that grit comes in, right? You work your way through the obstacles, then you can move into what is actually possible. But what I like to say about possible is that possible has to be created, right? You have to create what is possible. It's not just going to happen. You have to create an extraordinary life. You have to create an extraordinary family. You have to create an extraordinary team. You have to create an extraordinary business. And if you are not creating extraordinary, then you are generating ordinary. That's what you get by default. You get ordinary by default, right? And if you are not creating something extraordinary, you're going to generate ordinary. And I love what Shane Parrish says. He says, the price you pay for doing what everyone else does is getting what everyone else gets, right? And so we don't want to be ordinary. So we realize, okay, God created us for more. God created us for an abundant life. God created us to live a remarkable life. God created us to be the salt of the earth. He created us to be the light of the world. He created us to carry his glory into the earth. He created us to do these things. That is not a common existence. That is an uncommon existence. Well, those things have to be created. We have to create that. And through that process of creating, right? That word actually create, it means to evolve from one's own thought or imagination. That's where creation starts. And this is where visualization comes in, right? You have to see it in your mind before you'll ever see it in your life. If we're going to create and we're going to overcome, and I believe sometimes this is the challenge of Christians, they can't break through certain things. And it's because they haven't visualized themselves being on the other side. They haven't visualized themselves being free. They haven't visualized themselves saying no to what they've always said yes to, or saying yes to what they've always said no to, right? They haven't visualized that process. And that's where creation begins in our mind. And when I think about just the creation process with God, right? Like, I don't think God said, let there be light, and spoke the earth into existence. And then God was like surprised. Like, he's like, wow, I didn't think it was going to be round, right? I'm like, wow, I'm shocked right now, right? No, God saw it in his mind, right? It evolved out of his own imagination. And I think it's the same with us, is that's where creation starts. And then that second definition of create, it's to cause to come into being. Is not through a normal or ordinary process, right? And so you've got to create this extraordinary life, this extraordinary existence. And so I think whenever we go on this journey of going, hey, I want to move from where I am now to what is possible, and I don't want to settle, right? I don't want to settle. I like to say settling in the land of probable, because probable means likely to happen, right? That's you're going to get what's likely to happen, right? When you just live ordinary, you're going to get what's likely to happen. That's average, right? That's ordinary. And that's where most people settle, and that's where most people live. But we have a chance to actually journey to the land of possible. And possible, it's able to happen. It's not likely to happen, it's able to happen. But each and every one of us, through the power of the Holy Spirit, through the goodness of God, we can move into this possible life, this life that Jesus created us to have. And that's really what I'm out here trying to help people do. How do you move from where you are now to what is actually possible, and getting into an optimization mindset, and not that obstacle mentality that's going to cause us to turn around and settle, but the optimization journey that's going to really cause us to thrive and flourish and move into what is actually possible for our family, for our business, and for our individual lives.
That's so good. So good. I love it. Now, let me just throw, as you're talking, I'm thinking about one question, and we'll kind of wrap it up with this one question. But if you were to say to our listeners right now, if there was one thing that you would, you may throw in two, but I'd like for just one thing that you'd say that you can do today that will improve your tomorrow. What would that be?
Man, I would say this. You need to check your stance. You need to check your stance. In sports, if you don't have a good stance, you don't have a chance, right? I mean, we know that. If you don't have a good stance, you don't have a chance. And so when I think of stance, I think of the athletic stance, right? Knees bent, butt down, head and chest up, right? Weight on the balls of your feet, right? I mean, that is the athletic stance for every sport. And why do you have to be in that stance? Because you don't know what's going to happen. You got to be able to go the left, the right, up, back, right? You got to be in a stance that is versatile. Well, there's a definition for the word stance, and it is a mental or emotional position adopted with respect to something. And I think so many times is that we don't have the mental and emotional position that we need. And that word adopted is powerful because it means to choose to take as one's own, right? There's nothing I could do right now to force you to adopt a child, right? You would have to choose to take that child as your own, which within that definition, it means this, is that our mental and emotional position hasn't been put on us by other people. It's what we have chosen to take as our own. Can other people influence it? Absolutely. But I have to choose it, which is also good news, because if my mental and emotional position is not what it needs to be, if it's adopted, then it can be adapted. And I can get in a better stance. And so every single day, I don't think that people realize, like, every single day when I get out of bed, I'm in a stance. I have a mental and emotional position about that day, right? I think it's funny that we're recording this on a Monday, and a lot of people have a mental and emotional position about Monday, right? Everybody hates Monday, right? End of the weekend, right? Back to the grind, and we don't even think about it. But we have these stances on. We have a stance on our past, our present, and our future.
Yeah.
We have a stance on what we really believe is possible in our life and in our family. We have a mental and emotional position about the people in our life, right? About the opportunities that we have. And we don't check our stance. And sometimes it would be just like, I could bring an NFL player here, and if I put that NFL player in a bad stance and I made him cross his legs and lock out his knees and fold his arms and lean all the way back, man, anybody could come and push that guy over.
Yeah.
But if I put that guy in a good stance, whoo, there ain't nobody listening to this that would have a chance, right? But that's what happens with our day, is that we don't check our stance. And so we wake up with our legs crossed and our knees locked out and our arms folded and our weight leaning back. And then one little thing happens, and now all of a sudden, boom, man, we just let life knock us down. And it has nothing to do with that person that knocked us down. It has nothing to do with the traffic that we got into. It has nothing to do with the disappointing news we got at work. It has everything to do with my stance. And that's why I say us living the abundant life has more to do with our current stance than it does our circumstance. It's
So
about
good.
the stance that I'm getting in, right? And if we're not attacking the day is going to attack us. And so I got to get in that stance, not so that everything goes my way, but so I can move with whatever I need to. I got to be able to make the adjustments. I got to be resilient. I got to be able to respond. And so I would just say, man, if people just check their stance, is my mental and emotional position right now in a good position? Am I in a good posture? Am I in a good stance? What I like to call the stance to advance. Because if I'm not in a great stance, then I'm not going to be able to perform at the level that I need to perform at. And it doesn't have anything to do with my opponent. It has everything to do with me. And everything in sports starts with a stance, and I believe everything in life starts with that stance. And so that's what I would say. I would say, hey, just check your stance, that mental and emotional position. What does that posture look like? And I'll wrap up with this, because everybody understands there's a process to progress, right? If you want bigger biceps, right, you go to the gym, the process of lifting the weights, right, of doing the curls, you're going to get the progress of bigger biceps. But here's what champions understand. Champions understand there is a posture for the process. Because if you don't have the right posture, when the process gets hard, when adversity shows up, when things aren't happening as fast as you want them to happen, when you get into the midst of the process, you will quit and give up, and therefore you will not enter into the progress that your heart really desires. There is a posture for the process. And that's why I say, man, the stance to advance. If you get in that stance, you can get into the process and hang on long enough to get to the progress that you really want. And I think just so much it's in that mental and emotional position, that a mental and emotional posture that we have control over, because we're the ones that are adopting it. And so, man, if we can adopt it, that means we can adapt it, which is the best news ever. It means we can get in a better stance. And I think if people would just do that one thing every day at the beginning of the day, where's my stance? What's my posture like today? My mental and emotional posture. What is that like? Am I in a stance that's going to help me advance today? Bring the light, bring the joy, bring the enthusiasm, bring the positivity, or am I in a stance of defeat? And I think if everybody would just, man, check their stance before they walked out the door, I think it would make a tremendous difference in their day.
So good. Wow. I've enjoyed our time together.
Thank you.
Hey, Philip, what if somebody wants to reach out to find out more about how that you can help them,
Yeah.
their organization, them individually, whatever that may look like, maybe even come preach, whatever that may be. Let us know. How can they reach you? How can they find out more?
Absolutely. Very active on social media, Instagram, at Philip Deas. Just my name spelled just like it is. No dot, no slashes. When you have an unusual name, you just get your name for all the social medias, man. So it's just Philip Deas. And then everydaychampion.org. That's the name of my business. Everydaychampion.org is my website, and they can find me there as well.
Everydaychampion.org. And his last name is spelled DEAS.
That's right.
Okay.
2 L's in Philip.
And 2 L's in Phillip. So, hey, go check out, find out more. And also, I think you and your wife both wrote a book together.
We did.
And actually, I have that book. I read that book. I asked you earlier, and then I remember, it's been a few years ago, but I read that book.
Yeah.
Household Habits.
We wrote a book called House Habits. It's available on Amazon. It's basically how do you live on mission, one habit at a time. And we wrote that book a few years ago, and it is available on Amazon or on our website.
House Habits. And then you're hopefully, I know that you're working on a book. When do you think this may possibly be coming out?
Yeah, it should be the beginning of next year. So I'm really excited about that.
Yay. All right. Well, good deal. Well, Philip, thank you so very much for your time. I appreciate it. And would you mind doing this before we wrap up, praying for those that are listening? There's people that maybe they don't have a vision, or maybe they do, don't know how to get there.
Yeah.
Maybe, there's several different scenarios of the audience that is listening right now. And would you just pray a prayer of hope, of faith, of challenge, of action upon
Yes.
those that are listening to us right now?
Yeah, I would love to. Thank you, Pastor. Father, we thank you so much for your goodness. God, we thank you for your grace. God, we lift up our eyes to you right now because we know that you are our source. You are our source of vision. You are our source of courage. You are our source of strength. You're our source of grit. You're our source of peace. God, you are our source. And God, I just pray right now by the power of your Holy Spirit, God, that you would give us eyes to see the things that you have planned for us. God, we pray that we would begin to move with boldness and with courage into the life that you created us for. God, I pray that you would shine your light upon the limitations, the obstacles, the things in the past that have held us back, and give us a optimization mindset. Because God, we want to optimize for your glory. We want to be as effective and useful as we can possibly be in the hands of our Savior. And so, Father, I pray that you would help us on this journey. God, we want to be everything that you created us to be, and we want to do what you have called us to do. And so, God, we are asking you to come, strengthen us, empower us on our journey. And we pray this in faith, and we believe in Jesus' name. Amen.
And amen. Again, thank you so very much. And please say hi to Destiny for us.
I will. Thank you so much. It was great being with you.
Look forward to seeing you both again sometime soon.
Yes,
and
sir.
For everybody out there, I'm so glad that you joined us. Share this with somebody, and we will look forward to seeing you next time on Up and to the Right.